Do you know that one of the biggest obstacles to greatness isn't just failure, but settling for good enough? If you've ever wondered why you're not reaching your full potential, you might be stuck in the trap of good. Let's dive in on how to become great. And if you're new here, my name is Evan Mendoza, and I'm quite literally that baseball guy that talks mentality, development, and even recruiting. And I've played 7 years of professional baseball. Stay tuned because later in this video, I'll share with you a 27-page blueprint that's designed to break you out of the good mindset and start pursuing greatness. All right, so first things first, let's talk about what this comfort zone trap looks like. And I'm pretty sure that every single baseball player out there has encountered this. All right, so here's this wall, and obviously we have everything that we want on the other side. And we're over here. Just trying to chip away at this wall, right? We keep hammering whatever that is, we're hammering away and we're not really seeing any results. Maybe we get like this far or that far or that far. And once things start getting tough, guess what we do? We just back away from that challenge. This is, in a nutshell, the challenge that we're facing of playing baseball every single day. There's a ton of failures. There's a ton of embarrassments, and everyone else over here, there's a bunch of people over here, in this circle making fun of you for even trying to break down this wall, right? And once things, the emotional side of things, the failures, all of that, we just want something comfortable, right? We just want to be comfortable at the end of the day. We just want to, crawl into our bed in a fetal position and just be comfortable. Sometimes we just want to kick our legs up on the couch, watch Netflix, watch some streamers, video games, whatever you want to do, and we just want to sip on some iced tea and be comfortable, right? But in that comfort trap, are we really going to be seeing any growth, any development? It's truly when we become uncomfortable by hammering away every single day and embracing that you're over here and this is like almost your identity now. You're trying to cave in this wall. And sooner or later, day by day that goes by, you finally get to that place that you want to be, right? But it's not because you were in a comfortable mindset the entire time. We broke out of that comfort trap because ultimately there's always going to be someone that has something to say. There's always going to be people judging you, but ultimately, if you have the mindset to be able to break free from that trap and just keep hammering away, you're going to be in a much better position than 99% of people out there. So we need to have this thing called the growth mindset. And if you've never heard of the growth mindset, that's okay. I'm going to share with you exactly what it is. And this is something that I used mostly in pro ball. I kind of learned it throughout pro ball, but I always had this instilled into me. Throughout my entire baseball journey, I always had this mindset of learning every single day, every single at bat, every instance that I could. I was always learning from it, and I never got away from learning. So step number one, really in this growth mindset, is learn everything, right? And not everything, but every day as well, right? If you feel like you've got stuff figured out, I promise you, well, I don't promise you anything. Good luck. That's all I'm going to say, right? Because if you think you have everything figured out in high school, just because you're maybe a top prospect, good luck, right? Because that mindset is not a growth mindset at all. In fact, that is a mindset like, I know what I'm doing, and I am the only person that has ever been a top prospect, and I'm not going to listen to a single person because I'm this great top prospect, right? Great. Good luck. That's all I'm going to say, because if you don't want to learn more about the game, more than likely you won't learn more about the game. And this is something that happened to me, guys. I was at the high school level and I was on varsity and I landed a D1 commitment. So there was a point in time where I was a varsity high school baseball player. I landed that D1 scholarship, that commitment to NC State, and I was a senior on varsity. I was a captain of the team, and my head kind of a little bit, I'm going to be honest with me, and you, my head got a little bit too big, right? Not necessarily too big in the wrong ways, but I felt like I had the game figured out, and I'm okay with saying that. Because I really did feel like I had the game figured out. As a pitcher, I had like a .5 ERA. I played shortstop on the days I didn't pitch, and I hit probably around second to fifth as far as in the lineup, right? So I felt like I had a lot of things going for me, especially I was going to a national powerhouse of a high school. But then once I got over to a D1 baseball program in the ACC, which is probably the second best conference in the entire United States, I was starting to play and compete against guys that were 4, sometimes 5 years older than myself. Well, you probably think they've played the game a little bit longer. They probably also have seen some stuff and they know a little bit more about the game. So, of course, I turned into a sponge. I was way up here. And then once I got to college, I went back down here, right? Because ultimately I wanted to learn. And this is like me and my understanding of the game, right? I thought, or my perception of what I thought I knew about the game. So I went down here like my freshman year, but then by my junior year, I was getting college, or I was getting pro scouts interviewing me in the fall time. I had a pretty good understanding that I was going to get drafted. So again, my perception of what I thought I knew went way back up, coming right before the draft, right? But then once I went into pro ball and, of course, climbed the ranks in, low A, high A, double A, triple A, or whatever, I quickly realized, whoa, I don't know as much as I really thought. I got to rub shoulders with guys that have been in the game for 20, 30 years, coaches that have been in the game for 30, 40 years, right? So learning from the people that have been around longer than myself, it humbled myself every single time. And again, like as I started climbing the ranks, I started realizing like, yeah, I know a decent amount of the game. I got out to AAA, but of course, whenever I got into those conversations, let's say with a guy that's been in the MLB for 10, 15, 20 years, like a guy like Yadier Molina or Albert Pujols, instantly I would go back down because I quickly realized they've done stuff for so much longer. They've seen stuff happen. They understand the game at such a deeper level. It's ridiculous, right? So having this growth mindset to always be learning, I can't stress this enough. If you think you've got everything figured out, trust me, you can land a D1 scholarship. You can develop like a pro baseball player, absolutely without a doubt. It sounds like you kind of just want to do that on your own, and that's okay. Some people are self-starters where they will do all that work themselves. That's okay. I like to help collapse time. That way you can learn from my experiences and also my failures as well. So that growth mindset is super, super valuable. And next, I really want to just talk about some good characteristics and then also great characteristics, right? So if you're a good characteristic, more than likely you are going to feel very, very comfortable. And that's okay because you like sitting in the AC sipping on some lemonade, right? You're also probably going to avoid challenges because you don't like to compete, you don't like to push yourself past the limits of what you know that you're capable of, right? And then you probably focus on what's easy. Easy, man. I love easy things, right? And, I only want to do math problems that are 2 plus 2. That's all I want to do. I don't want to do multiplication. I don't want to do division. I don't want to do any type of formulas or anything like that. I just want to do the easy addition because it's easy, right? And that's okay. Some people like the easy route, and you probably like being an average baseball player as well. I never wanted to become an average baseball player. I wanted to become a great baseball player. So let's talk about some, characteristic traits for those great mindseted baseball players. And great mindsets, they really embrace discomfort. NC State's head coach Elliott Avent said, "You have to find ways to feel comfortable in uncomfortable situations. If it's 30 degrees outside, you have to find a way, maybe it's a mental approach, to tell yourself that you are comfortable in the scenario, right? And maybe you're shivering, maybe you're cold, maybe you can't even feel the bat in your hands. But you have to trick yourself sometimes to tell yourself you're comfortable in situations that you're not. A quick little example of something that happened, I'll give you 2 examples. When I was transitioning from a pitcher to a third baseman at NC State, that was very uncomfortable because I knew I was giving away pitching. I'm not going to be able to ever really go back to pitching because then I'm looking like I'm changing my mind every year. So what I did was I basically pushed away pitching and I just worked extremely hard, and it was very uncomfortable. I would work out and hit in the cage alone by myself until 1, 2 a.m. Sometimes when I had early morning conditioning at 6 a.m. and I had like maybe a 10 a.m. class, I would hit for 2 hours before class. I was very productive, and ultimately to a lot of people, that's very uncomfortable because you're putting in work by yourself sometimes. When in reality, I just tried making myself feel as comfortable as possible. Sometimes I would blast music in the middle of the night. I remember sometimes the coaching staff was, in the office until 11 or 12 o'clock at night. They peeped their head in. They're like, "Is everything good in here? Like, we can hear the music from 3 blocks away." So embrace the discomfort in your career. Also, it's really important to seek growth. And obviously, with that growth mindset, we want to seek that knowledge of the game. We want to seek the guidance, the learning side of the game, because you never truly have this game figured out. That's something that I've learned throughout my 7-year pro career. All right, and then also you want to be striving for excellence. All right, so when you're striving for excellence, you're not going to ever settle for mediocrity. All right, you're striving for above and beyond, you're shooting for the stars. And I always like to say, if you're shooting for the stars, sometimes you might just land on the clouds, right, which is still pretty high up there. I've always had high goals in the game of baseball to play in the big leagues. And, sometimes I look back at my career and I say, wow, I've been able to play at AAA, which is probably, maybe 0.5% of all high school or all baseball players in the entire country get to do what I've been able to do, right? So I feel like I somewhat landed on the clouds. Obviously, I wish I was able to play at that next level, but either way, this is something that I think is just ultra valuable, having that understanding of good versus great. All right. So it's also important when you're setting these goals. Be scared of them. You don't want to be setting goals like, hey, I want to do one push-up every single day. What fun is that? What fun is that, guys? That's not a goal. That's not anything that is worth attainable. Obviously, this is like a great start if maybe you're going through a rehab process and you can't necessarily do a push up. But, guys, you should be striving for big, big, big goals. And I always feel like I'm never in the right to tell you if your goals are too big or too small. I actually have in our onboarding process for all of my students that join into my academy, I have them, select their own goals, craft them to their own knowledge. I don't ever really want to see that. And my understanding of this is like, if you want to become a Hall of Famer in the big leagues, play for 20 years, I don't want to be the one that tells your player, hey, that dream's too big and that's not attainable. Because to be honest with you, I played with guys that are going to be in the Hall of Fame, and I know for sure that that is attainable, right? So I'm never going to necessarily ever say that. But then also on the flip side, if your player just wants to play D1 baseball and maybe get a couple of at bats at the ACC level at NC State, right? I'm not going to say, hey, that goal is too small, right? I'd never want to be the one dictating that. So that's my belief on it. You should ultimately, whenever creating and crafting these goals, obviously use the SMART framework, which I teach my students as far as how to craft those SMART goals, right? Making sure that it's specific, measurable, and time relevant, all those fun things. But I do want to talk to you guys a little bit on the path to greatness, guys, because the path to greatness, this is something that I feel like is just ultra valuable. So the path to greatness, you really have to understand when you're ultimately settling, guys. And this is when you might be feeling like you're just good enough, right? And that's okay. But you have to recognize at certain points of time, this is when you have to be like, okay, I'm settling, right? Um, I'm not necessarily pushing as much as I could be. I could be going a little bit harder, but I'm just not for whatever reason. So you have to recognize that. And if you don't recognize that, it's probably one of like the first steps to admit that you are settling in your career, in your journey, right? Because you don't ever really want to settle on your dreams and goals. So after you recognize that you are settling, this is when you have to start setting ambitious goals. This is when we use that SMART framework. We want to make sure that those goals are big. They should scare us a little bit, right? But this is ultimately going to help us move forward and go in the direction of up and to the right. Because if you're not going up and to the right, there's no such thing as staying even. I truly believe you're either improving or you're decreasing your ability to play at the next level. About halfway through, this is when we have to start embracing that there is going to be failure along the way. So embrace the climb, really. And I don't know if you guys follow me to a deep level, but one of the greatest songs I think in really all history is Miley Cyrus's "The Climb." Right, talking about the journey of getting to the top of the mountain, and there's always going to be a mountain in front of you, so don't expect that it's just going to disappear all of a sudden. Right, don't just necessarily do all the work just for the view at the top. We have to embrace this entire journey and embrace the climb, embrace the failures, embrace everything that comes with it. Also, you want to grab the people that you care about the most and make sure that the journey is, fun and exciting for them as well. Your parents, your family members, your friends, as well as your extended family as well. That journey should be fun for everyone included. After we really embrace that climb, we also have to commit to a lifetime, guys, of learning. And if you, again, think that you've got it all figured out, that's a good mindset, right? Not a great mindset, it's just a good mindset. So keep it up, you got it, right? But in my belief, you have to constantly be learning, right? I got to have conversations with some of those, big stars, the Yachties, the Goldschmidts, the Arenados, some of those guys, Wainwright, even when I was with the Cardinals, they are always learning every single day, without a doubt. They don't ever feel like they've got it figured out. So for you to be a high school baseball player, or maybe your son has everything figured out, compared to a 20-year big leaguer, good luck, right? Good luck. And that's just my take on that. And the last step, really, to be able to be on that path to greatness, we want to track results. And we also want to measure progress for especially the goals that we're setting, right? So this is where we kind of get into that feedback loop of always tracking results, measuring progress, committing to the learning. And if we're not learning in that process, we're not embracing the climb, we basically just have to keep going in a hamster wheel right here. And that's okay, to keep setting new goals and keep pushing yourself and keep going back on those results. You're tracking them in the process, you're competing with yourself, and you're measuring all of the progress in the journey. If you're ready to stop settling for good and start achieving greatness, download my free 27-page blueprint down below in the description. It's packed with practical tips, exercises, and strategies to help you break down those barriers and ultimately help your player unlock his full potential.